Government of Sikkim had requested National Institute of Public Finance and Policy, of which I was the director, to write Sikkim a people's vision, which was released by former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. So my knowledge of Sikkim is dated, but I'm a lover of Sikkim. I consider this to be almost like my home. And whenever I get an invitation to Sikkim, be very careful, Mr. Thapa. You invite me, I'll come.
Thank you.
And so I love the people, I love all of you, I love the state. So this is, as an MLA from BJP and an economist, I thought I'll come and talk to my party colleagues in Sikkim about the budget. So I will sort of wait for your questions, but let me give you a brief introduction to the budget. See, budget, as I'm fond of saying, sometimes reminds me of three blind people feeling an elephant. Some people look at the trunk and say the elephant is like a pipe, hose pipe. Some people feel the legs and they say it's like a pillar. But budget is a huge document, few thousand pages. See, Government of India, or let me say the Union government, spends about 1/6 of the money that the country spends. 16 to 17% of what is spent in the country is spent by Government of India, Union government. So, the budget is an annual financial statement, and the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha passes it. The government cannot spend any money without parliamentary authorization. Like in Sikkim, it cannot spend any money unless the Vidhan Sabha has given its approval. Similarly, the government cannot tax unless the parliament has given approval to those taxes. Now, what you must look at is the overall thing about the budget. Many times we get sort of waylaid. We only ask, tax ka kya hua? Personal income tax ka kya hua? Or you'll ask, what have they done for agriculture? They're important questions, but there is the overall thing. So let me give you some of the overall things that guide the budget. See, the budget is in the context of, you know that there was the COVID pandemic. So, the economy, like everywhere in the world, it fell like this. And people are saying it'll take a long time to bounce back. But it bounced back. So it fell like this and bounced back. So that's why it's called a V-shaped recovery. The V-shaped recovery has taken place. But 21-22, there was slight deceleration in the growth rate. So the government had to be careful. Second, while growth needs to be boosted, at the same time inflation is a problem. I mean, what you want is growth and low inflation. If growth is low, inflation is low, you can stimulate demand. If growth is high, inflation is high, you can contract. When growth is not that buoyant, but inflation is high, you need to have a balance. And mind you, this balance is in the context of some really good performance by the Indian economy. The Modi government, or the NDA government under Narendra Modi, came to power in 2014. From 2013-14 to 2020-21 or 21-22, the Indian economy per capita income has doubled. India has become from the 10th largest economy to the 5th largest economy in the world. And India is the fastest growing large economy in the world. But at the same time, it's fiscal prudence. So what the government has done, I think the government needs to be complimented that it has managed to stimulate growth while maintaining macroeconomic prudence. That's the first thing. And mind you, this has been done because of the uncertainty in the world. What is the uncertainty is about? You're all journalists, so I don't need to tell you that there is a war between Ukraine and Russia, and we don't know where it is going. Second, because of this war, and Russia being a large supplier of hydrocarbon, that is petroleum, diesel, or crude petroleum, energy prices are slightly vulnerable. Third, because energy prices were vulnerable and the COVID pandemic, inflation was high in most countries. So many countries in the world are thinking of increasing their interest rates. You know, the Federal Reserve Bank of America, United States, has increased it already. Many of the European countries and Australia have increased it. So when the interest rate goes up in one bank and you put your money in another bank, you take your money and go to the bank that is offering higher interest. So similarly that happens with countries. So it is in this context that I claim, and I think you'll agree, that the government of India has introduced the BJP government, the NDA government, with Narendra Modi as Prime Minister and Nirmala Sitharaman as Finance Minister, has presented a commendable budget for 2023-24. So, first thing is fiscal consolidation. What has the government done? Now, mind you, this is a pre-election year. 2024 is the Lok Sabha election. This is the last full budget before the election. And you know how politicians many times introduce these freebies or populist measures to attract votes. But this government has resisted that temptation. Not only has it resisted that temptation, what it has done, it had promised to bring down the fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit is basically the government's income, how much the income falls short of its expenditure. It has brought it down from 6.4% of GDP in 2000. It had promised to bring it down to 6.4% of GDP in 2022-23. That was the budget estimate. And in the revised estimates also it is 6.4. And in the coming year, they promised to bring it down to 5.9. And by 2025-26, they promised to bring it down to 4.5% of GDP. I'm sure you'll agree with me that the government needs to be complimented about it for doing this fiscal consolidation. Because every government, what it does, no one will disagree. They will say yes. It's like someone quitting smoking. They say, yes, I will quit, but not now, not today. Similarly, government say, yes, fiscal consolidation, will consolidate, but not this year. This is a special year. But this government hasn't done that. Second thing that it has done is expenditure switching. You know the difference between revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. Revenue expenditure is income expenditure that doesn't get you any return in the future. Capital expenditure is something that gets you a return in the future. For example, if you become friendly to me and feel good, you may take me out and give me a cup of coffee. That's a revenue expenditure. It will not get you any income in the future. But if you go and buy a car, or if you build a house, that will get you an income in the future. That's a capital expenditure. And the government of India, what it has done, it has switched expenditure. from revenue to capital. It has increased capital expenditure from 7.5 lakh crore to 10 lakh crore, which is an increase of almost one third. Not one, almost, it's increase of one third. Now, many people will say that you're increasing this capital expenditure, but we need more revenue expenditure. What about it's people have poverty, there are people who need help, and so on. Again, it's a question of balance. One is you can give relief measures, but people of India want development. They do not want only relief. They want long-standing, sustainable development. And development can come only by building roadways, building airports, building railways, building factories, for which you need capital out. So that is what the government has done. And in this context, some people will say, the opposition may say, what about Manrega? Manrega, you have cut down the allocation. But the allocation, one thing that you must remember is Manrega is not a badge of honor. It provides, I think here, the wage is to 222 rupees per day. See, you want employment for 365 days. You don't want employment for 100 days. Manrega provides employment for 100 days only and at a wage of 222 rupees. So, and you want them to take up and here I believe the daily wage in the market wage rate is around 500 rupees. So instead of 500, you're paying only 222. So when I go and line up and ask you for Manrega employment, I'm actually desperate. The government has failed. So I think Manrega, the need for Manrega at the time of COVID pandemic was definitely very elevated. And now that COVID is over, if things get to normal, Manrega demand should be lower. And if we implement Manrega without corruption, without giving to the wrong people, then Manrega demand should be lower than what it was during COVID times. And secondly, the government has always said that Manrega is a right-based entitlement. So if need be, it will be augmented. And I've spoken for a long time. I'll just mention a few things about what it has done for youth and children. For youth and children, there is a proposal for a digital library, which you must welcome because it will provide the young and the children to access to books and journals in a digital library form. Ekalavya model schools, 740 of them, will be strengthened with 38,800 teachers and support staff in the next 3 years. The 3 artificial intelligence centers will be set up and National Apprenticeship Promotion Scheme will be rolled out. For scheduled tribes, there is the Ekalavya Model School, 740 of them. I told you how they will be strengthened. Then there is the PM Primitive Vulnerable Tribal Groups Development Mission that has been launched to provide safe housing, safe water and sanitation, access to health, education, roads, telecom, connectivity and so on. For women, what has been provided is Mahila Samman Vikas Patra, which is for 2 years. You can deposit up to 2 lakhs per year and get interest of 7.5%, which is much higher than what you get in the banks. For senior citizens, the ceiling on savings accounts have been increased from 4.5 to 9 lakhs. For economically weaker sections, the PM Awas Yojana expenditure is fixed at 69,000 crore. I told you about education, healthcare, 157 nursing colleges will be set up. There is a huge demand for nurses. There is a shortage of nurses. And nurses can treat many simple things. You don't need a doctor. A trained nurse is good enough. And sickle cell anemia, which is prevalent among tribals, will be attacked on a mission mode. And by 2045, 2047, we should be eliminating it. For agriculture and allied activities, 20 lakh crore has been allocated. And this allied activities include dairy farming, animal husbandry, and pisciculture or fisheries. Yeah. MSME sector, 9,000 crore have been provided for guarantee, which should augment the credit
without collateral
by 20 lakh crore, and it's 2 lakh crore, 2 lakh, not 20. And it should decrease the rate of interest by 1%. Investment expenditure, I already told you. Ease of doing business is very much there. Indian Railways, organic farming will be promoted, and I'm very happy. I've been in between in Sikkim. I came with the 15th Finance Commission, but I haven't come and sat with you friends like this. And when 2001, this was one of the focus, and organic farming. And Sikkim has made great progress in organic farming. I expect to see further progress in this. Investment, I told you that it has already been increased from 7.5 to 10 lakh crore. Railways, 2.4 lakh crore will be spent for expansion. Railways need to be augmented. Regional connectivity, 50 new airports and hubs, helipads will be built. Urban infrastructure, 10,000 crore will be spent for augmenting urban infrastructure. Environment, there will be hydrogen mission, and also for energy transition, PM Pranam, program for restoration, awareness, nourishment and amelioration of Mother Earth for promoting organic farming. In tourism, 50 tourist destinations will be selected through the challenge mode. So it's varied intervention to help different sections of society. In the case of Sikkim, I'm very happy to note that, as I told you, I'm a great admirer of Sikkim, and I consider to be a part of the fight for achieving excellence. Per capita NSDP in Sikkim was 4,72,543 in 21-22, compared to 1,50,007 rupees for all India. So per capita, the NSDP is about more than 3 times that of India. Not only is it high compared to India, it has grown faster from 2013-14, that is when the last year of the UPA government. From the last year of the UPA government to 2021-22, the All India figure has only doubled, but for Sikkim it has increased 2.5 times. In 21-22, there was the new scheme that was launched, Prime Minister's Development Initiative for Northeast Region, PM Divine. So that is going on. And that its Northeastern Council, Sikkim is very much apart from Arunachal, Assam, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland and Tripura. Infrastructure projects are being funded. And here, I was happy to learn from my party colleagues that work is going on in Pelling and Sangachoiling in West Sikkim, where 64 crore was included for the viability gap funding. And there is the other ropeway, eco-friendly ropeway from Dhapat to Balidingha. Am I pronouncing it all right? I've never been to Balidonga. Balidonga, yeah. I've been to Yumthang and I expect to go to Yumthang this time. Mr. Thapa will invite me. Even if he doesn't, I'll force him to invite me to go to Yumthang and see the rhododendron forest in bloom. That ropeway also there is progress. There is dedicated service for the management of pediatric and adult hematolymphoid cancers in Northeast India. And I'm also happy that Manrega implementation in Sikkim has also given the local bodies a greater role, which has been reported in newspapers. And railways in the Northeast, 10,988 crore have been allotted. And when I came from yesterday, I came late night, so I couldn't see. I believe the railway construction is going on, and hopefully one day I'll be coming to. Will it come all the way to Gangtok?
No.
Rangpo, okay. I'll get down at Rangpo. You'll pick me up, sir. And so the agenda for the NDA government is very clear. Sustained development with help for the economically weaker sections. I'll stop here. If you have any questions, I'm there too. I'll try and answer.
I have a question. It
Yes.
doesn't directly deal with the budget in Sikkim, but central budget. Now, every time we hear that budget for defense is being, either maintained as it is or increased, but we never see any improvement at the border. We see them soldiers working with hand, removing all that, snow, ice, everything. They don't get any modern equipment to do it. So what is the reason after all that? Nothing is done on the border. Because we concerned because it is just nearby, that.
Ma'am, I have been to many borders, including Nathula here. I can't give you an answer. I mean, maybe with the topography, maybe with the problem of transportation. I'm not an expert to answer you that question. You need to ask a defense expert.
सर, प्रधानमंत्री ग्राम सड़क योजना ये है, इसमें इस बार बजट में कितना है? और जो सिक्किम के संदर्भ में बात करें तो प्रधानमंत्री ग्राम सड़क योजना की जितने भी सड़कें हैं सिक्किम में आज के डेट में कैसे की कंडीशन में उसका मेंटेनेंस ठीक से नहीं हो रहा है। उसके लिए हिल्स एरिया में प्रधानमंत्री ग्राम सड़क योजना के रोड को मेंटेन करने के लिए कोई एक्स्ट्रा बजट एलोकेशन किया गया है?
इसके बारे में मैं तो आपका नंबर मैं बता नहीं पाऊंगा, क्योंकि वो तो गूगल से आप निकाल सकते हैं। इट विल बी इन द एक्सपेंडिचर बजट, डिमांड फॉर ग्रांट्स में होगा। नंबर तो बुढ़ा बनते जा रहा हूँ मैं, याद नहीं रहता है, तो इसलिए आई कांट गिव यू दैट आंसर कितना करोड़ है, कितना हजार करोड़। सेकंड क्वेश्चन बहुत अहम सवाल है। ये मैं ये कहता हूँ कि आप मेरे दोस्त हैं, आप प्यार से मुझे एक मकान बना दिए, ठीक है, मैं खुश हो गया। 5 साल बाद मैं आपको आके बोला, अरे मकान तो दिया, अब रिपेयर का पैसा भी दो। तो ये तो जब प्रधानमंत्री ग्राम सड़क योजना जब बनी थी, ये आपने क्या ठेका लिए है, मुझे मकान बना दिए इसलिए, मगर ये प्रॉब्लम तो है। बट मेंटेनेंस, ये तो मैं पार्टी क्या कहता है मैं कह नहीं पाऊंगा। मेरा पर्सनल ओपिनियन है, जब ग्राम सड़क बन जाएगी तब इसका जो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी फॉर मेंटेनेंस ये तो लेना चाहिए पंचायत का, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट को। मगर वो 15th फाइनेंस कमीशन का रिपोर्ट देखेंगे, उधर भी कुछ पैसा दिया गया है, तो लाचार है। आप मकान बना के दिए मुझे, आप अगर जाके देखें कि ये बहुत खराब हालत है।
नहीं, मगर सिक्किम के संदर्भ में क्या बोला जाता है, ये टेक्निकली है कि नहीं मेरे को भी पता नहीं है, आप इकोनॉमिक एडवाइजर आपका अच्छे से पता होगा कोई एक तरकीब बना दे, उसको यहाँ के हिल्स के टेरेन को देखते हुए उसको पीस करने के लिए 8 साल या 10 साल बाद उसका एक्स्ट्रा बजट दिया जाएगा बोल के ऐसे नए सड़कें यहाँ पर बनाई जाती हैं, तो वो कंडीशन है कि नहीं?
Again, it's such a detailed question, I can't answer you because I never mislead you with the wrong answer. But see, normally what happens in the national highways, the contract itself has a maintenance provision for a few years. Problem comes when that period is over. Now, in the hilly areas, I understand that because of the terrain, because of the soil conditions, because of the rains, roads deteriorate faster. I can't answer that question, I'm sorry.
So you have been an ex-chief economic advisor also, plus a member of the 15th Finance Commission. Generally speaking, in your opinion, it is being said that Sikkim does not have too much of its own revenue sources, and it is more or less predominantly dependent on the center for all its economic activities. So in your view, what would be your suggestion to the state government to expand its revenue sources, and which are the sectors they can tap on?
See, a few things that come to mind, obviously. Now, mind you, when you ask me a Sikkim specific question, if I was not an MLA of West Bengal, I would have said, appoint me as consultant, I'll come and spend some time and give you an answer, a well-considered answer. But here, a few things are clear. I think it's true all over India. And the Finance Commission has recommended it. One is property tax. See, if all of us start claiming that we are poor, someone has a house which costs 30 lakhs. I mean, if he or she claims that he is also poor and maintaining roads in front of that house or street lights or supplying water. So property tax is not really a tax. In a way, it's a benefit tax. Benefit tax because when you have a property, I have to maintain the road in front of your house. I have to maintain the road street lights. I have to give you water supply. I have to give you sanitation facilities. So all those are there. So property tax is one of the... I mean, I'm repeating. See, you, as a BJP man, you're asking me to tell you in public what the government should tax. And immediately the opposition will start, because the problem with populist politics is they'll say, spend more, tax less, don't have deficit. Three are incompatible. You can't have that. If you say spend more, then you have to tax more. If you say tax less, then you have to spend less. But problem with populist politics is it's never that. So I'll give you that. I think I've spoken enough about what are the revenue sources that can be. Excise, I don't know how much the government is getting from liquor. The excise.
Doing well,
Very marginal.
better than all others.
Exerting power.
No, better than all others, meaning maybe it's because in Sikkim we drink a lot. But when we drink a lot, compared to the per capita consumption, whether the tax is good, I don't know the details. And I'll just give you a broad answer. You see, if you look at the states' own revenues, some of the states are doing quite well. Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, offhandly, haven't looked at the numbers, but the eastern states differ. And Sikkim, I think, can do better. That's enough?